Hey, Steve here. Just letting you know that today is Monday. We're doing Monday Guitar Motivation, and I made a backing track this morning that I'm going to give you. So in the chat, hopefully this shows up for you. Right there, you should be able to download. Hey, Brandon, you should be able to download that track, and that's what we're going to be using today as our example. So basically what we're going to be doing, hey, everybody, thank you so much for being here. And welcome to another week, right? Try to stay motivated, keep practicing. If you live in the Midwest where I am, it's been brutal with a lot of snow, and now we've got a lot of cold, so we need some motivation for sure. Hey, Carmela, Alan is here, very cool. So basically, with that track, hopefully you can see that link there. I'll try and throw that in there a couple of times for you. You can download that track, and what we're gonna be doing here is instead of getting, off in the weeds with modes, what I wanna focus on today is basically you're going to take this track and you're going to start exploring what a scale sounds like over different chords. So what's going to happen here, let me just say hello to a couple people here. Jerry is here, Steven is here, Hamster Man is here, Tim is here, Mike Woodward is here, CJH is here, Louie is here, Cal is here, Donald is here, Austin Mullaney, how you doing? Merry Christmas. Austin is here. So we have all kinds of people here already. So let's just go ahead and get started. And again, thank you everybody for taking out and hanging out with me. Laisha, I'm going to try and make the mode thing as painless as possible. I saw your comments, so we're going to do the best we can here. All right, so basically what we're going to do, let me show you the backing track I made this morning, okay? It just sounds like this, very straightforward. So it's a G chord. So hopefully you can hear that okay, and what's happening is I'm in the key of G, and all I did was play 8 measures of each one of those chords, okay? So I'm going to show you a couple things that you can do just to start trying to train your ear to start thinking about how this works, okay? Now, there's a million ways of approaching modes, and again, I don't want to go off in the weeds today because I want to try and make this as painless as possible and have a little fun with this. But the basic gist of what a mode is if you're in the key of G, your main chord is G, and you're going to go other places, and then you're going to come back home to G, and we call that being in the key of G. Okay? And then later on, we learned that we could take the 6th chord, which is E minor, and we could play in the key of G, but emphasize that E minor chord, okay? Because there were similarities between the G and the E minor chord in terms of the pitches that they used. And then we call that being in the key of E minor, right? And so if you take piano lessons, you learn that G major and E minor are called relative keys because they have the same sharps or flats, okay? What a mode says, and not that I'm trying to get into an argument with anybody, but if we think about it, the key of G major and the key of E minor really are the same thing. They're not similar to each other. They are the same thing. The only difference between them is if you're in the key of G, you're emphasizing the G major chord in some capacity, in the rhythm part, in the lead part, whatever it might be. If you're in the key of E minor, it's the same chords, it's the same notes as the key of G. The only difference is now you're emphasizing the E minor chord. So the tonality of your song or whatever it is that you're doing now has that tonality of E minor because E minor is the main chord that you're playing. But the notes haven't changed and the chords haven't changed. So then what happens with modes is you say, okay, well, if we can emphasize the 1 and we can emphasize the 6, why can't we emphasize the 2 chord? And the mode says you can. You can be in the key of G. The 2 chord in the key of G would be A minor. Austin, no, not Austin. Terry said that. So Terry said, would you go with the Dorian mode? And again, we'll get into this. But so if we were in the key of G and we emphasize the 2nd chord would be A minor. Well, we can't just call it E minor or A minor because then it would be confusing in terms of names because we said E minor. So we use the term Dorian. And what Dorian means is the 2nd chord of whatever key you're in. So if you say you're in A Dorian, it means you're in G major, but you're emphasizing the 2 chord, which is A minor, okay? So if that kind of makes sense, then what we're going to do here is we're just going to take the G major scale and we're going to play it over each one of these chords as they happen, and then you can download this track and you can try this on your own, okay? So if you think about it, just start very basic. Like the most important thing I want you to get from today is not trying all your licks and things like that, which you can certainly do, but it's starting off just learning how to hear how a G major scale, in whatever way you play it. I mean, if you play it, whatever it is you do, it doesn't make any difference. That's really not the point of this. Although, again, you can use anything as a practice tool if that's what you're doing. So I'm just going to take the G major scale, and all I'm going to do is play it up and down over these chords. But as I'm doing that, what I want to start trying to do is kind of start listening to how the notes are responding over the G chord versus the A minor chord versus the B minor chord, which is the 3 chord, which is the C major chord, which is the 4, and the D major, and so on. So again, I'm not changing anything that I'm doing at this point, although as I get more comfortable with this, obviously I would maybe want to start trying to emphasize my notes or my target over each one of these chords. So that would be the second thing to get into. So let's say I started this thing right now. I'm just going to kind of play G major over these changes. So here we go. Here it's A right now, A minor. Now, needless to say, what's happening right now is very random because I'm just playing the notes of G major. So what I want to try and avoid is just playing for the sake of playing, and it's okay to do that again. But as you do this more and more, you want to keep trying to think about how it sounds. So a really great thing to start doing, if you can, is you use that G major scale over each one of these, but then every time it changes from like G major to A minor to B minor to C major to D major and so on, is try and make a little change in the way you're approaching the G major scale that you're playing. The easiest place to start is just start trying to emphasize, for instance, the root. Over G, find a G and move around, but focus yourself on that note G. And when A minor comes up, do the same sort of thing, but focus yourself toward the A minor. So let me try just a little bit of that to show you the example. So this would be kind of step 2, okay? The guitar is quiet compared to the backing track. Well, I'll turn down the backing track a little bit. So here we go. Same thing. So now I'm going to emphasize that G. Okay, now I know A is coming. Now here comes C, right? Or B. Now here comes C. Okay? And you could start off just real basic like that. And then the next step you could start doing is trying to focus more on, if you know what they are, you could start focusing more on the arpeggios. So when G comes up, you're thinking about the root, the 3rd, and the 5th, and maybe even the 7th, right? And then when, let's see here. Okay, So hopefully that makes sense. So then you start doing the arpeggios if you can. Now you can still use the scale, but if you can see those arpeggios a little bit, you can start using those a little bit. Okay? And then you keep adding. So now what I'm going to do is play a little more of the arpeggios along with that scale. Okay? So now I'm going to go back again. Now here comes A minor. So I start thinking about A, C, and E. Here comes B minor. And C. Now D. Okay? Now you can see how, let me stop this for a second. We just keep expanding. So again, part of this is that you're using these chords to hear the differences with using the same 7 notes, but over different chords. And when we do that, we don't want to focus on licks and arpeggios and different things like that. We just want to start off by just learning how to listen. Nice and slow. You could play very slow over the top of this. And then the next thing you can do is just start giving this a bit of direction so you can hear, if you start emphasizing the note G over G, or A over the A minor, or B over the B minor, that sort of thing, it starts kind of pushing this in a direction. And then the next step above that is that you can start trying to play actual arpeggios over the top of each one of these, along with everything else that you're doing. And again, you don't need to be in any hurry for this. You might just focus on the first step, and that's all. That was my point of this, is just to give you something very simple to try and work with. You can make it as complex as you choose to over the next week and whatever it is that you do, by using all kinds of different things, right? You could start doing all of your normal soloing things and adding licks and different stuff like that. But hopefully that makes sense to you. So this, I just wanted to go live, say hi to you. Hopefully this gives you something to work on for this week. And have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and everything that you've got going on in your world. And try and stay warm if you're in the Midwest like I am. And practice this. And remember, I'll add that link one more time here to make sure that you've got this. And it's not popping up. Oh, there it is. Perfect. So hopefully you can download that track. You can mess around with it. Let me know if it's working for you. And always, as usual, go ahead and check out guitarzoom.com and check out the courses and the membership and stuff like that we have. And stay positive and take care and keep